You ever have that moment where you realize you can't halfway chase a dream? You can't be 1 foot in and 1 foot out? That's what I want to talk about today. The moment I realized that if I wanted to succeed in business, I had to go all in. Okay? Most people say don't quit your job unless your business replaces your income. And that's wise advice for some. But for me, staying safe became the very thing holding me back because I realized I was the bottleneck of my own business. At the time, I was working full time, good job, good benefits, steady check, but inside I was split in two. There were times I'd be at work and clients would reach out to me, messages coming in like, hey, I'm ready to fix my credit. And because I was on the job, I couldn't respond right away. By the time I clocked out, the moment had passed. They had already found someone else. And it hit me. I was missing opportunities that were literally mine. That happened over and over again. And each time I felt this quiet reminder, you're asking for blessings, but you're not available to receive them. That's when I realized I couldn't keep being halfway in. I had to make a choice: either keep being the title my job gave me or become the man that God called me to be in my business. And I decided I was going to trust Him because I understood that the Lord was going to bless me according to the measure that I trusted Him. If I trusted halfway, I'd get halfway results. But if I trusted fully, He could move fully. One night, I sat down and looked at everything on paper. My job was taking 40 hours a week to make a fixed amount. My business was taking less than half that time and bringing in more. I had the proof, but I also had fear. So I prayed and heard this so clearly in my spirit: you can't keep renting your time and expecting me to multiply your purpose. That line shook me because I wanted required ownership. I had to own my own time, own my decision, and own my faith. And that's when I knew I couldn't keep standing in two places. I was wrestling with the unknown, but I knew that faith was the only bridge between where I was and where I needed to be. James chapter 1 verse 8 says, "A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways." All right? And that's what I was, unstable, working a job that no longer aligned with my calling. So I made the choice. I told God, even if I don't see how this is going to work, I'm trusting you. And I meant it. One of the biggest things I realized in this process was how powerful environment really is. All right. The more time I spent at work, the more I noticed that I noticed that what I was learning from there had nothing to do with what I was doing in my business. And it hit me. The season I was in was over. I had already collected every skill I needed from that job. It had served its purpose. Sometimes God won't move you into the next thing until you recognize that the current season is complete. I began to see the change that doesn't happen by chance. You don't build a life that blesses people by accident. You build it through intentional change, changing habits, changing priorities, and yes, changing your environment. The more I spent time in the environment of my business, working with clients, learning, networking with like minded people, the more I grew. My creativity expanded, my confidence grew, my results multiplied. But when I went back into that job environment, I could feel the pull, the difference in energy, in ideas, in belief. It was like two worlds that could not exist together. I started realizing that there was a difference in philosophy at my job. People were motivated by the job, the paycheck, the benefits, the schedule, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people thrive in environments where they're told what to do, but I noticed something about myself. I didn't need someone to tell me to build, okay? I was already self-motivated. I didn't need external permission to move forward. I just needed to obey what God already placed in my heart. I thrive by vision, by building what I see in my spirit. And that's when I knew it was time to fully step into the environment that matched my calling. The day I left my job wasn't emotional, it was peaceful. I clocked out, I knew my season there had ended, and as soon as I gave God that full yes, things started to shift. The same clients I used to miss because I was at work, I could now respond to instantly. Opportunities that used to pass me by started turning into growth. It was like the moment I aligned my environment with my calling, the flow just opened up. Everything I had been praying for started showing up. Not because I worked harder, but because I finally got in position. As I stayed consistent, things accelerated. I was able to give my best energy to my business instead of my job. I was able to focus on helping more people fix their credit, educate clients, and build systems that actually changed lives. That's when I understood that provision follows position. God had already prepared the blessing. He was just waiting for me to move into the right environment to receive it. Deuteronomy 8:18 says, "But you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the power to get wealth." All right? The power was already there. I just needed the faith and focus to use it. And here's what I learned through that season. All right? Environment shapes energy. You can't grow in a space that limits your faith. You just can't. Half commitment brings half results. You can't treat your purpose like a side project. All right? And change doesn't happen by chance. You build a new life by changing your habits and surroundings. Trust has a measure. The more I trusted God with my time and environment, the more He blessed it. And you outgrow certain seasons. When your growth stops matching your environment, it's a sign God is calling you higher. If you're watching this and you feel torn between your job and your calling, between comfort and conviction, this is your confirmation. You can't grow in soil that no longer feeds your purpose. It's not about quitting recklessly, it's about recognizing when your season has just ended and trusting God enough to step into the next one. All right? You don't have to see the full picture, you just need to trust the one who painted it. When you go all in, He meets you right there, and you'll realize that faith doesn't remove uncertainty, it just makes you unstoppable in the face of it. Yeah. So that's how I went all in, how I learned that your environment, your faith, and your focus will determine your success far more than your comfort ever will. Because half commitment holds you back, but full trust moves mountains. All right? Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment.